Okay, Preludes Part 3. And this is where his narrative style, Eliot's narrative style, really is evident in the poem. Obviously, the first stanza is particularly evocative of setting. And this stanza continues to, depict this bleak, gloomy, urban world where there's an absence of joy or happiness, or the possibility of joy and happiness. But here he introduces characters. And again, in the second prelude, is this image of these hands raising dingy shades in 1,000 rented rooms. And it's not rented rooms, it's 1,000, furnished rooms. But here, this sense of these people and their lives being grimy. And again, lacking the absence of romance. And I don't mean romance in terms of love. I mean romance in terms of idealism. I mean romance in terms of hope, of positivity. Let's look at the first line. Again, anything I've marked in yellow, you can learn any quote you want. Anything I've marked in yellow just stands out to me. You tossed a blanket from the bed. You lay upon your back and waited. You dozed and watched the night revealing the 1,000 sordid images of which your soul was constituted. That's, for me, the best pair of lines in the poem. The opening two lines clearly it's alluding to sex and to, physical contact, which doesn't result in spiritual contentment. It's quite sordid. You lay upon your back and waited. Dozing. And then the sense of what's inside is worse than what's outside. In other words, the emotional and the spiritual is even darker than the physical experience of living in this polluted and dirty world. That there's pollution and dirt on the outside and filth, surrounding us, but also then that's the same on the inside. And again, he uses that 1,000, second time he does it, the 1,000 sordid. Sordid means unpleasant, shameful. The 1,000 sordid images of which your soul is constituted. Like, that's a dagger to the heart of the optimism of human life. Here's Eliot peering into the human soul and not seeing beauty, not seeing, the miracle of humanity, but seeing frailty and failure and, ugly reality. And that's how we see when we look inside ourselves, that life can be utterly dispiriting and defeating, and that sometimes that comes from within. I mean, I'm just speculating here. I love this stuff so much because it makes me think, but I recognize this. I recognize the gloom here. I recognize the sense of living in a polluted world. It's not something that I feel very often, but I recognize it. I recognize what Eliot is describing here. He's describing unhappiness. And he's capturing it in these particular characters in this part. But it's an unhappy world he's describing. A world which has lost meaning, where life has lost meaning. He says that these sordid images flickered against the ceiling, and when all the world came back and the light crept up between the shutters, again it's dark and there's only a bit of light, and you heard the sparrows in the gutters, and sparrows are beautiful, but they're put in the gutters. A great example of juxtaposition. So in this world, even the beautiful exists in tandem with the filth and the dirt and the pollution of urban life. You had such a vision of the street as the street hardly understands. Sitting along the bed's edge, can't you see the figure? Where you curled the papers from your hair, it's a woman, and she's putting in this paper to make her hair curly. Or clasped, and this is, clasp the yellow soles of feet in the palms of both soiled hands. Now that is a really, really, really good example of what's called synecdoche. I'm after spelling that wrong. Well done, Paul. And that's where like a body part, a singular body part, or a singular unit, a kind of like a small sample is used to represent something much greater, the broader experience. So the yellowed feet, the feet being yellowed, it's somehow unnatural. This is the skin is hardened by life and by life experience. It's an ugly image, and the hands are soiled, and that's the bit that I get. The hands are dirty, and there's a sense that there's no possibility of getting them clean. That life in this place is dirty. It's unpleasant. It's ugly. And while she's curling her hair to try to make herself look better, inside there is 1,000 sordid images. She's in this furnished room with broken blinds and dingy shades, and she's just about to go out into life again, into the world again, to take part in the daily masquerade that begins every morning. And then there's this incredible moment where the writer says, I am moved by fancies that are curled around these images and cling, the motion of some infinitely gentle thing. Some infinitely gentle, infinitely suffering thing. And that has to be a reference to Christ. Infinitely gentle and infinitely suffering. Eliot was a Christian. He had a profound belief in Christianity, which kind of came back to him later in life. But the sense is that faith doesn't give any relief from this daily grind. That when you're caught in this cycle of whatever he's describing here, this is not a social commentary poem. He's not giving out about the inequality in society and the grind of the life of the poor. That's not what's happening here. But what is happening is his depiction of how spiritually desolate as well as materially poor life is for these people. I asked that question, is there a moment of epiphany here? And understanding the suffering of the masses is not for nothing. That there is a connection to something infinitely gentle, God perhaps. But no, there is no insight. There's only self-mockery. He feels idiotic for momentarily imagining there may be some meaning. The point is that it is an illusion. The only reality is the bleak, sordid, corrupt and polluted world depicted in the 4 Preludes. And that is an utterly nihilistic concept. And I'm not saying that Eliot was a nihilist. And nihilism is this skepticism that rejects values, belief in existence. That basically nihilism is great. There's a great song by Metallica, "Nothing Else Matters." The sense that nothing matters. I'm not saying Eliot is a nihilist. I'm saying that the images here are nihilistic. There's the absence of meaning. What does it? Not the question. What does it all mean? And what if it all means nothing? The great, Christian sales pitch is that we suffer in this life so that we can go to paradise in the next life. There's no sense here of that optimism. There's no sense here of this existence having any real meaning. It's just bleak. It's unrelenting. And I think that image of the yellow soles of feet in the palms of both soiled hands for somehow just captures that It's the ugly reality of our lives, not me and you, but of the lives that he saw in the world in which he existed. And I think it does have a modern context. I think it is relevant to the modern world and our often what happens in terms of people's well-being and their mental health, because they feel lost and they feel as if nothing has any meaning, and they feel, they're haunted by the thousand sordid images. That's a great line, isn't it? Of which their soul is constituted. And I think that's what Eliot is exploring here, that reality of life. That's the third one. Next one to follow.